Good afternoon. I'd just like to welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of October. Consistent with Section 747A of the Local Government Act of 1993, this meeting of Liverpool Plain Shire Council is being live streamed to Council's website. A webcast of this meeting will be published to Council's website at www.liverpoolplains.newsouthwales.gov.au so that it is available for viewing by members of the public. Acknowledgement of country and prayer. Acknowledgement of country. Today we gather on the land of the Kamilaroi Nation. We therefore need to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this land. We also pay our respects to the Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and further extend that respect to our other adults who have joined us today. Council prayer. Lord, we ask that you watch over this council, guide us in our deliberations and decisions for the betterment of all the people of our Shire and Australia.
Excuse me, can you leave the door open? This is a public meeting.
Yeah, right, aren't I? Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Shut last time, wasn't he?
Yeah, we need to leave it open.
Thank you. Apologies and applications for a leave of absence by councillors. Are there any apologies for applications for leave of absence by any councillor? No, thank you. Confirmation of minutes. The recommendation reads that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 13th of August 2024 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Do I have a mover?
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cullen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lawson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Just a question in relation to a matter there, Mr. Mayor, if I could please. Just a matter of 8.1 on the business paper, where there was mention of the equipment at Spring Ridge being left there, and in that motion there was a memorandum of understanding to be prepared. I'm just asking whether that memorandum of understanding has been prepared and signed by all parties to make effective that motion.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've attempted to, well, we have had some meetings with the various people who are involved with that resolution. We have prepared a notice of a memorandum of understanding. The equipment is still there, and the intent of what the council wants to do is certainly being pursued. The people who are involved, they're thinking that they may change the model in terms of how they deliver that exercise program. There's a group called, I can't recall it off the top of my head, but Active Farmers or something like that, that run these sorts of programs across Australia, and they're thinking that that may be a more convenient way for them to do that rather than having them run the program themselves. So, yeah, but we're certainly still working towards that. We're waiting for those people to come back to us to give us an indication of which way they want to go. So we'll either be entering into the MOU with the individuals, or we'll enter into some arrangement which will be similar to an MOU with the, I think it's the Active Farmers.
Right there. Councillor Cullen.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Foster and Mr. Mayor.
Is anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Thank you. Against? Carried. Disclosure of interests. Are there any conflicts of interest in matters under consideration at the ordinary meeting in accordance with Part 4 and Part 5 of the Code of Conduct?
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kane.
Mr. Mayor, I provide services to LPSC in the areas water and wastewater. In reviewing the business paper, I do not believe there are any discussions that, as a councillor, will be asked to make where I will have a conflict. However, Should any questions or discussions arise in relation to the report 6.9, pages 62 and 63, Crindai Water Supply Automation, Upgrades and Crindai Wastewater Pump Stations 3 and 5 upgrades, I will declare a pecuniary of interest and leave the chamber while these matters are being discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. There's no. You'll have to bear with me, there's a mayoral minute, the ratification of the Liverpool LPSC submission of motion for the 2024 annual Local Government New South Wales Conference. I would like to read out this report for the benefit of those online and in the room. The recommendation reads that Council ratifies the submission of the motion entitled Increased New South Wales Government Funding of Regionally Significant Transport Routes by Councillor Lawson to LG New South Wales for inclusion in the 2024 annual LG New South Wales Conference business paper. The background to this recommendation is that it has been noted that the majority of motions included at previous annual conferences of Local Government New South Wales have been concerned with issues relating to metropolitan councils. Given that the 2024 Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference is to be held at Tamworth, it is a especially good opportunity for rural and regional councils to submit business paper motions to have issues that concern us heard and discussed. Local Government New South Wales advocates to be relevant to the relevant levels of government to lobby on motions that are passed at the conference. It was discovered by Councillor Lawson late last week that the deadline for such submissions was Sunday, October the 20th, 2024. Given that the next ordinary meeting of Council, being the first ordinary meeting for Council for this term, was October 23, 2024, it was not possible to bring possible motions to the meeting prior to the deadline. In the absence of a council resolution approving the submitted motion, Local Government New South Wales accepts a letter of support signed by the Mayor and General Manager. Councillor Lawson drafted the submission last weekend and lodged his submission online together with a letter of support before the deadline on Sunday, October the 20th, 2024. This issue was chosen as it relates not only to our shire but many rural shires in New South Wales, which will improve the likelihood that it will be accepted into the business paper. It also links to the heavy vehicle access policy for PBS performance-based stamped vehicles. The full text of the submission made by Councillor Lawson is below. Councillor Lawson plans to speak to this motion. It's included in the paper and is supported by Council to attend the conference. Councillor Lawson, the submission to 2024 Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference business paper. The title of motion is Increased New South Wales Government Funding of Regionally Significant Transport Routes. The motion would call on the New South Wales Government to increase funding for both the maintenance and capital upgrade of regionally significant freight routes to support PBS vehicle access to the state highway network, intermodal test terminals and consequently inland rail. The background on this motion. In the Liverpool Plains Shire, we have just under 200 kilometres of regional roads and a total road network of just under 1,400 kilometres that we maintain. The funding provided for regional roads is significantly less than the amount we spend on these roads each year on OPEX and CAPEX works. These roads provide shorter routes for freight to other main roads, meaning that these roads are burdened with a large amount of through traffic. The main example of this is the Coonabarabran Road, that provides a shorter route from Dubbo and other western regions through our shire, and then north along the Werris Creek Road to Tamworth and beyond. In addition to through traffic from outside our shire, these roads provide freight links between primary producers, silos and intermodal terminals. This freight of primary produce is state significant and is recognised that within the New South Wales Government freight policy reform, enabling better access to intermodal transport is a key priority. Our shire has a population of under 8,000 and an area of 5,086 square kilometres. It is not fair to accept rural councils like ours to continue to maintain these vital freight links, as vehicle loads are consistently increasing the pressure placed on our ageing infrastructure, which are often not built for these loads nor for the area needed for swept pass of these larger vehicles. The Coonabarabran Road needs capital works to improve flood resilience, to reduce closure and damage from flooding both for freight and for the villages it services. The Werris Creek Road provides a vital link to the intermodal at Werris Creek and to the regional centre of Tamworth, but it requires further works to support high capacity freight and improve safety. Timely and reliable access for getting our agricultural commodities to market is essential in order for our agricultural enterprises to prosper in a competitive market. The state government needs to recognise that rural shires like Liverpool Plains are the backbone of our economy and properly fund our regional roads. I will now read the recommendation again. That Council ratifies the submission of the motion entitled Increase New South Wales Government Funding of Regionally Significant Transport Routes by Councillor Lawson to the local government of New South Wales for inclusion in the 2024 annual LG New South Wales Conference business paper. I would like to move this report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lawson, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this motion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Six point one. Executive Services Report for August-September 2024. The recommendation reads that Council receive and note the Executive Services Report for August and September 2024. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cohen, do I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? No. All in favour? Against? Carried. 6.2, Schedule of Ordinary Meetings for 2024. The recommendation reads that Council, 1, note the Schedule of Ordinary Meetings for 2024 as appended at Annexure A, pursuant to Section 365 of the Local Government Act 1993 and Clause 3.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. 2, note that a report will be presented the December 2024 Ordinary Meeting of Council for the adoption of the Schedule of Ordinary Meetings for 2025. Number 3, note that the General Manager, where possible, will hold 2 Council workshops per month for 2024 and 2025. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Mr.
Councillor Simcoe. It's called old age. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Robertson.
I'd just like to ask if it's at all possible to have meetings where more people can attend, like later in the afternoon, closer to knock-off time, so we can get more people in the gallery so they know what's going on.
I refer that to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. Councillors, yes, the setting of the schedule of ordinary meetings for 2025 is a decision that is made by you as the collective body. What we're proposing to do is at the next workshop, which I think is on the 25th of November, be one of the items for discussion, where hopefully we can get some clarity as to a preferred day and time for 2025. And then following that conversation, as indicated in the recommendation, there'll be a report coming to the December council meeting, where council will then be asked to confirm the schedule of meetings for 2025 in accordance with your wishes of dates and times and days of the week and those sort of things. So I hope that satisfies your question, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you.
All right, councillor?
Yep, thank you.
Oh, sorry, councillor Lawson.
I just wanted to note again though that all the meetings are webcast and recorded, so anyone can watch them at any time as well, which I think is what most people tend to do, because everyone has different work hours and yeah, it's a busy life. So yeah, but happy to have that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lawson. If there's no one else, all in favour? Against? Carried. 6.3, appointment of councillor delegates to the Local Government New South Wales Conference. The recommendation. The recommendation of the council: 1, appoint the following councillors to attend the LG New South Wales Conference being held on the 17th and 19th of November 2024. 2, note the conference program is appended at Annexure A. And number 3, approve the reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses incurred by councillor delegates attending the above conferences in accordance with the council's expenses and facilities policy. And 4, note that council delegates are required to provide a written delegates report to council following attendance at the conference. There are nominations for 3 councillors, noting previous practice has been for the mayor and deputy the mayor to attend with 1 other councillor. So, can I have any nominations, please?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate the Mayor to attend, please.
Thank you. We need 2 other nominations, one being Donna, and then we need a third councillor. Councillor Cullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to ask whether if we make a nomination and the person's unable to, for some commitment that is unforeseen, not be able to attend, can we name and return councillor to take their place, and whether that causes any issues in relation to the nominations.
Thanks for councillor Cullen. I'll refer that to this matter.
Through you, Mr Mayor, normally it shouldn't be a problem. Where there is a voting delegate, in this case the mayor is the voting delegate, a change in that may cause a bit of a problem. I think the sooner that any person who's nominated to attend can let the staff know, so that we can in turn let Local Government New South Wales know for registration purposes. But these sort of things happen all the time, unforeseen circumstances, and but I would urge any councillor who puts forward their name to carefully consider, because we have had this situation in the past where people withdraw at the last minute and then we don't have a backup, and then we incur the cost of that registration, which is not insignificant.
Thank you. Councillor Lawson.
I would also like to nominate myself to attend, and I'd also like to see, as Councillor Cullen suggested, an alternate added to point A and 1A, in case one of those councillors couldn't attend, simply noting that there is not another council meeting prior to the conference.
Councillor Lawson, I'll have to refer that to the general manager, whether we can have an alternate or we just have the three councillors and then, or yeah, how it works.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, you can nominate 3 or 4 councillors on the understanding that only 3 are going to attend. And then, as I said, I would encourage the councillor who is unable to attend to let the alternate know sooner rather than later. I think it's quite sensible to have a backup there because, as Councillor Wilson said, we don't have another meeting, so there's no ability to get a resolution, and it would have to be done by agreement. So it makes sense to have a backup in that case.
Thank you, General Manager. So we need two more nominations of councillors, please.
I'd like to nominate myself, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lincoln. One other, please.
If council approves, I'll put forward my name as an alternative to councillor, one of the councillors, or the councillor simply can't attend, and I will be prepared to take his place.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. So I'll read the recommendation again, noting the nominees. Council number 1, appoint the following councillors to attend the LG New South Wales conference being held on the 17th and 19th of November 2024. There will be 4 councillors. One is the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Simpkin and Councillor Cowan as an alternative if someone can't make it. Number 2, note that the conference program is appended at Annexure A. 3, approve a reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses incurred by councillor delegates attending the above conferences in accordance with the council's expenses and facilities policy. 4, note that council delegates are required to provide a written delegates report to council following attendance at the conference. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Lawson, seconder. Councillor Kane. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lawson.
I just wanted to check, I do note that it says the dates are the 17th to 19th. Is there anything taking place on the 17th other than the actual dinner, the welcome dinner? Because I think most of the conference takes place on Monday and Tuesday.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. I'll have to refer that. I thought it was Sunday lunchtime it started, but the general manager might have one more.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just looking at the program on Sunday the 17th, there's the trade exhibition is open and there are a number of breakout sessions. There's one in the day of the life of a councillor. There's a session with the Office of Local Government and ICAC and the Auditor General, and then there's the Blewett Award presentations, and then the President's Welcome Reception on the Sunday. So again, it's a matter for the individual delegates whether they feel that session in the afternoon is going to provide any value. I think as Councillor Wilson said, the main order of business is on Monday the 18th, where there's the opening addresses and the consideration of motions, and then dinner on Monday night, and then on the Tuesday there's a few keynote speakers, etc., etc. So yeah, it's a matter for the delegates, I suppose, as to which sessions they would like to attend.
Happy, Councillor Wilson? Councillor Wilson.
is it possible at all to have one councillor attend one day and then have a different councillor attend the other days?
I'll have to pass that on to the general manager as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if there's part registration options, if that's what you're asking, Councillor Lawson. Certainly, I think the practice has been that councillors, if there are concurrent sessions, to try and not all attend the same session so that there's coverage of the various sessions. But if the question is around transferring registration to allow, say, Councillor Cohen as the fourth person to attend, a session that Councillor Simpkin doesn't attend, I'm sorry, I'll have to take that on notice and find out.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Lawson. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried. 6.4, appointment of committee members and delegates. The recommendation that Council 1 appoint the following councillors as delegates and alternative delegates to the following committees of council for the period of the current mayoral term concluding September 2026. The committee is the Local Traffic Committee. 2, appoint the following councillors as alternative delegates to the following external committees for a period of the current mayoral term concluding September 2026. Those committees being the Australian Railway Monument Management Committee, the Central Northern Regional Library Committee, Joint Regional Planning Panel, Mid North Weights of Loads, NAMI Unlimited, North West Regional Weed Committee, the Rural Fire Service Liaison Committee and the Werris Creek Coal Mine. Do I have nominations for the delegate and alternative delegate for the Local Traffic Committee, please? Or do we want to do it as a whole and do them all at once? And then if anyone's got some changes, we could probably do that, if everyone's happy with that. Do you want to do that? So, if anyone from the floor would like to nominate the people for certain committees, it'd be very grateful. Thank you. Councillor Carr, thank you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Having had some discussions, I'd like to submit the following nominations for various committees, starting with your Traffic Committee. I'd like to nominate Councillor Allen, with the alternate being Councillor Simpkin. In relation to the Australian Railway Monument, I'd like to appoint or nominate Councillor Kane, with the alternate being you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Cudmore. In relation to the Central Northern Regional Library, I'd like to nominate Councillor Allen, with the alternate being Councillor Robertson. For the Joint Regional Planning Committee, Councillor Lawson as a nominated attendee, with the alternate being myself, Councillor Cohen. Mid North Coast Weights of Loads, nomination Councillor Simpkin, alternate Councillor Lawson. NAMI Unlimited, I think is already probably established with you, Mr. Mayor, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lawson. Northwest Regional Weeds Committee, nominated representative Councillor Robertson, alternate Councillor Cudmore, Mr. Mayor, yourself. Rural Fire Service Liaison Committee, Councillor Kane as a nominated representative, with the alternate being Councillor Robertson. And the Werris Creek Coal Mining Community Consultative Committee, I'd like to nominate myself, Councillor Cohen, with the alternate being councillor Kane.
Thank you very much, councillor Cohen. Is everybody happy with those nominations? Well, anyway, councillor Lawson.
Just like to second that motion.
Haven't amended yet. Have we? No.
Just still checking to see if everyone's happy.
Yeah. So, there's no one else that is unsure about what committee they've been nominated for? Is everyone happy? Very good. I'll try and work through this process.
Which one's that?
Excuse me for a second, I'll get everyone answer a bit. So if everyone's happy with their nominations and their alternatives, I'll read the recommendation again, noting the nominees for delegates and alternative delegates. But council appoint the following, number one, council one, appoint the following councillors as delegates and alternative delegates to the following committees of council for the period of the current mayoral term concluding September 2026. The local traffic committee, which is councillor Allen as the delegate, and the alternative delegate is councillor Simpson. 2, appoint the following councillors as delegates and alternative delegates to the following external committees for the period of the current mayoral term concluding September 2026. The Australian Railway Monument Management Committee, the delegate nominated is councillor Kane, and the alternative delegate is myself, the mayor. The Central Northern Regional Library, is councillor Allen as the delegate and councillor Robinson as the alternative delegate. The Joint Regional Planning Panel, the delegate is councillor Lawson and the alternative delegate is councillor Cohen. The Mid-North Weights of Loads, the delegate is councillor Simpson, the alternative delegate is councillor Lawson. Namoi Unlimited is, the delegate is the mayor and the alternative delegate is the deputy mayor. The Northwest Regional Weed Committee, the delegate being councillor Robinson and the alternative delegate being the mayor. The Royal Fire Service Liaison Committee, the delegate being councillor Kane and the alternative delegate being councillor Robinson. The Werris Creek Coal Mine Community Consultative Committee, the delegate being councillor Cohen and the alternative delegate councillor Kane. Do I have a mover, please?
So, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cohen, seconder. Councillor Lawson. Does the mover wish to speak? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Six point five, appointment of General Manager's Performance Review Panel, 2024-2025. The recommendation reads that Council determine the composition of General Manager's Performance Review Panel The 2024-2025 period consists of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, a councillor nominated by council, and a councillor nominated by the General Manager. 2, note that LG New South Wales has already been engaged as the external facilitator to assist with the performance appraisal process and the development of any new performance plan. 3, delegate to the General Manager's Performance Review Panel, A, the whole process of performance management, including discussions about performance and performance reviews for the 2024-2025 period, and B, the reporting to Council of findings and recommendations of reviews for the 2024-2025 period, and any actions that should be taken. Do I have a nomination for one councillor to be on the panel? One nomination for the position, the one councillor to be on the panel. Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Yes, I nominate myself. If that's not possible.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Is there any other nominations for a councillor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Allen.
I nominate Councillor Simkin, I'll get his name right, Simkin.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Sorry, Councillor Lawson.
I was just going to ask how we actually go about this, but I'd like to second the nomination of Councillor Simkin.
Do we just have a show of hands for this? This is the councillor nominated by council.
Correct. So I think the best way is through a show of hands.
So can we have a show of hands, please? There's two nominees, Councillor Simpkin and Councillor Robertson. Can we have a show of hands for Councillor Simpkin, please? And Councillor Robinson. Sorry, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Simpkin is the councillor nominated by the council. Is there any other nominations for a councillor to be on the committee, please? Councillor Carter. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, having served on that committee previously, I would like to nominate myself to fill the other position, if it's possible.
So, if this is the position that's nominated by the General Manager, has a say. So, are you happy with that nomination?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I'm more than happy with that nomination, thank you.
I will read the recommendation again, noting the nominations. The Council 1, determine the composition of the General Manager's Performance Review Panel for the 2024-2025 period to consist of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Simpkin, nominated by Council, and Councillor Cohen, nominated by the General Manager. 2, note that the LG New South Wales has already been engaged as the external facilitator to assist with the performance appraisal process and the development of any new performance plan. 3, delegate to the General Manager's Performance Review Panel, A, the whole process of performance management, including discussions about performance and performance reviews for the 2024-2025 period, and B, the reporting to Council of findings and recommendations of reviews for the 2024-25 period and any actions that should be taken. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Lawson. A seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Allen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 6.6, Corporate and Community Services Directorate Report, August-September 2024. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the Corporate and Community Services Directorate Update Report for August-September 2024. Do I have a mover?
It was me.
Councillor Cullen, do I have a seconder?
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kane. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, yes, I would just like to raise a few questions if I could in relation to the report. I have a couple of different questions. Mr Mayor, you want me to approach each one separately, or you want me to do them all in one go? And have yourself or the General Manager or Mr Frost answer in turn?
All at once. More than once, thank you, Councillor.
Right, the first question, I guess, in relation to the Quindive Aquatic Centre, just a question asking whether the following designs have been approved, and are there any obvious costing issues that could affect the ability to complete within budget, or lead to council having to amend any initial submitted design features that we originally pre-listed. The other question, then I come down to customer requests. I noticed there are active queries over the last 2 months, and I just want to know whether these are all just pending reply, or whether the things are being inadequately answered and too slow, like that our answers are slow in relation to queries coming from the public or whatever. And also, are any of those active requests still prior to August? I noticed we've got some outstanding for August and some for September. And I just want to know if any of them predate August. Just a quick question in relation to the Werris Creek Industrial Precinct, and that is if we have an expected date for the result of the additional funding application. And the other question I have then is in relation to property management. I noticed that the grazing agreements which council is presently concluding, says that there are negotiations open at the moment. My question is, I know there also that the local real estate agent, one agency, has been appointed to deal with advertising and matters in relation to those agreements. I just asked whether or not one agency has purely or mainly a residential leasing agency in town, whether they really have the qualifications to assess the viability and the amounts of these leasing agreements that we're about to enter into. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dillon. The last two that you brought up, we're monitoring up to 6.9.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. I had noted this, so I'm doing it. Sorry about that.
Right. I'll just play the first two. We'll just go to the general manager. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, we're very pleased to note that the design works for the Quindive pool are all but completed. There are some, we met on Friday and agreed in principle with the works that have been, designs that have been presented. There were some minor details that have been resolved over, Monday to Wednesday, and I'm not exactly sure where they're up to. We've received an update on the project cost estimate provided by Boat Corp project. And there's been two variations to that original estimate, but they've held all the other six items that were there. And we believe, as the project control group, that these are legitimate variations in principle. The first one relates to screw piles, which ensures that the pools and the splash pad and all the other concrete structures remain in place, and they're not subject to movement because of the reactive soil. We expected this to come in because they made an explicit exclusion as part of their original price, and they do that on the basis that until they actually get a final design, they don't know how many and where they need to go and those sorts of things. So we believe that's legitimate in principle. The second one relates to concrete concourse. The tender that they put in allowed for 1,000 square metres. The revised design provides for approximately 1,700 square metres, so there's an uplift of around 700 square metres of concrete. We're working through the contractor to confirm those prices. Our contract has what's called a couple of clauses around being an open book arrangement. So we can request them, which we have done, ask them to show us the various quotes that they've got to make sure that they, are not putting on an exorbitant margin or additional costs, so we can be really, really confident with that price. There is the capacity for us to revise the amount of concrete that we're looking for, because a lot of that additional 700 square metres relates to utility areas, so not areas that the public would access. So we can do that without impacting on the amount of the patrons using the pool. As I said, we're working through the contract with those items. But what we're expecting, that we'll be able to resolve that within the next day or two, and hopefully by the end, early next week, morphing into the construction phase of the project. Some milestones that might be of interest to you. The contractor's telling us that we'll have a pool shell in the ground by Christmas, so Merry Christmas to all. And the project will be completed in September of 2025. We've certainly examined the contractor's proposed timelines. Our view is that it is very reasonable, and there is the capacity within it to run things concurrently, to speed things up if they run into some difficulties. The other thing that is there is that they've allowed 25 days for wet weather, where they're not able to do any work, and that's a significant amount of wet weather contingency. And the September 25, when they hand the keys over to us, that'll be water in the pool, ready to go. So there's none of us getting to do what we normally do when we start a pool, fill it up and get it going, because what they're going to need to do is train us how to use the facility, the plant, and all of those sorts of things. The other part of your question was about the project scope. We're pleased to advise that we believe that we can complete the full project scope as agreed by the concepts within the funding envelope. And I use the word funding envelope because it's important for councillors to know that we've been working on this project based upon the funding application that was submitted a number of years ago, as opposed to a council budget. The funding represents the budget, but that's what we've been working towards and trying to deliver the project without any additional cost to council. So that includes the funding, the generous funding, I should say, actually, from the state government, who also very generously provided a significant proportion of that funding up front, which has allowed us to put it in our bank and obtain investments. And we've earned some significant interest in relation to that project, which is assisting us deliver the project on budget. And I think the other thing that's important to note is that when this project was originally scoped and the funding application was submitted, it wasn't contemplated that we would be constructing a toddlers or program pool. So the fact that what we've been able to deliver is that additional element to the pool, which is quite a significant element, and one that the community clearly were very strong on us delivering. We've certainly been able to do that with that original budget, so I think that's a pretty good outcome for the community. So so we're very happy with where we are at the moment. The second question you talked about were in the customer requests. What happens with some of those that are remaining active? Some of those might come in on the day before things close. We get 10 to 15 a day, and we'll have some items that in our customer service charter, we've got 5 days to act on them. There's others that we've got 10 days. So some of those may be within that legitimate period. We do get weekly reports on all of the customer requests that have come in, and I certainly know Gary recently because he asks some queries every now and then. But that actually does get into the point you're making about, are these ongoing, and why haven't we resolved them? What is the issue? So if they go outside of our service limits, then we're starting to look at those and go, what's the reason that we're not able to act on these things? And in some cases, some things just take a bit longer to investigate. We need contractors to come on site and those sorts of things. And it's really important for us that, particularly where those things occur, that we are engaging with the community, the resident who made the request, to keep them up to date with where things are. If something's pretty routine and they see our parks guys go out and clean up a tree that's fallen over, they'll just know that that's happened. But if there's something that takes some investigation, we need to keep them in the loop about what's going on so that they feel it hasn't just gone into the ether.
Councillor Cole?
Just through the spare, thank you for a very comprehensive answer to those questions, and Mr Mayor, I apologise for the other 2 matters that were raised out of sequence.
Right, Councillor Cole. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion?
Yes, Mr.
I am. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing too much for me, but I also have a couple of queries about the aquatic project. First one was just noting the St Joseph's Primary School Snow White production at Royal Theatre. I attended that. My kids were performing that, and I just want to say they put an absolutely wonderful show on. It was really great to see it so well attended by the community, and I'm sure that they have many thanks to council for the provision of that facility. It really set it off very nicely. With regard to questions, only further to what Councillor Cullen has mentioned, I'm just wondering if you've noted that September 25 for completion. Is there a way that council can obtain a detailed program of completion on that matter, and also for the new councillors and benefit of anyone who might be watching at home or catching up on the YouTube later, just a brief summary on the delays to date, please.
Firstly, to the query about the timeline, yes, we have got a detailed program, and that includes a critical path, which is the key element to keeping projects on track. There's some things that there can be delays and it doesn't impact on the ultimate delivery, but we've certainly got that, and we'll certainly we'll be working and holding them to account and working with them on the delivery. One of the mechanisms we'll have in place relates to, we'll be having site meetings on a regular basis with them. We've also got a project control group that we've established that meets on a monthly basis. They will be invited into that, and we will be having some, we'll be looking in the eyes on where are you up to with this and why is there an issue, etc., etc. So, but really getting this sense of working together with them to get to an endpoint rather than an adversarial approach. Some of the delays and some of the issues at the moment that we've had, I think we've lost in theory about, I think, between 4 to 6 weeks. And we haven't been too concerned about that because we could have the pool open already in June, but we won't open it in June. So we knew we had a bit of wriggle room, for want of a better term. We used some of that time to fully investigate some of the items that the proponent was putting forward, particularly in relation to the water filtration system, which is certainly a new one to me, and that we sort of sent our staff around to have a look at those. So some of those things just take us a little bit of time to get back to them and say, yes, we want to do that, or no, we want to go with a sand filter. And then we did a number of tours of other facilities just to see what their learnings are. And that's been reflected in the design. An example, Councillor Lawson asked me the other day around the accessibility, the disability access, and whether there would be an issue with leaves and cleaning that. one of the pieces of advice we got was just put more jets in that area there, and all the stuff would be just blown out. So, you know, those things are very, very valuable for us to do, and we just took that time to make sure to design the facilities as well as we could, knowing that we don't do this every day.
Thank you. Councillor Simpkins, you're right.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I know there's a workshop on the 25th, so I'm sure we'll get more into detail there.
Councillor Allen, sorry.
Just around word out to the public, just to keep them updated, I think that may alleviate some of the nonsense that happens online, and I want to get rid of it. But I think the more information we get out, and what you just gave us in the update was extremely well, and I think even people who don't understand have a general understanding there and then. So I think if we get that out to the community and they're knowing, I think specifically with the timeline around September, and I think we leave out the July bit. And we just tell them that, yeah, that'd be good, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Allen.
I can answer, provide a response to that if you like.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. We certainly have a community engagement program planned for going forward. Part of the challenge with projects such as these, a lot of work gets done, but nobody sees it, and that's the design phase. So once we get people on the ground and there's some site sheds there and all of those sorts of things, people get a sense that the project's going. It hasn't, you know, it's been going as quickly as we can and at the right pace. But we're certainly focused on, you know, trying to be creative in terms of engaging with the community. You know, some of the things that we've talked about is, you know, going out and going to local schools and doing box pops of the kids to see how much they're excited and is it going to be great. Partly to promote the pool, but to really say this is a community pool. We'll have a dedicated, which we've got at the moment, a dedicated spot on our website, but we'll have updated timelines and all of those sorts of things that are going on there. There was something else, but I think I've forgotten it. Yes, one of the challenges that we have, and I did speak them up, and they're very good with the funding that they gave us. They can be a little bit slow in terms of we need to get their approval before we do anything in the public domain. We have a number of you know, press releases already prepared, and we've issued them to them so that we can get them pre-approved, because, you know, we could just tweak it a little bit, as long as we get the minister's what words he or she wants to say, then we're fine. Thank you. Yes.
Right, Councillor Allen. Councillor Kane.
Mr Mayor, just to follow up to one of the questions Councillor Cameron asked regarding the industrial precinct grant funding at West Street.
Is it this one? No, it's 6.9.
It's 6.9. I'll ask it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, like Councillor Allen said, get it out to the public, so we're able to say guarantee open October long weekend when it was traditionally open.
Not quite sure, Councillor Robinson. I'll pass it to the General Manager.
Thank you.
Look, I'm happy to answer that. I personally, I've only been with council for 18 months, so I'm not sure what the traditional opening date is. But, you know, I can't hand on heart today say absolutely, but, you know, it's a little bit like the Werris Creek pool. You know, we've been working for, towards the November, you know, first weekend in November. We've had a few heart palpitations with that, with a fair bit of rain coming in when we're trying to dry paint and do some painting. But, you know, we certainly work hard to do that, and once you get a bit closer, then you can absolutely guarantee. And we need to be really clear that when we set a date, we deliver it, because no doubt we'll have ministers there, we'll do a whole range of community activities around that particular day. So, you know, it certainly will be it will make a big song and dance about it, to promote it and just to say, hey, isn't this great?
Okay, Councillor Robinson.
Yes, that answers the question. Thank you.
If there's no one else, I'd just like, for the new councillors, the strategic initiatives, just the resilient drought, regional drought resilience plan, if Mr. Frost could actually just give the new councillors a quick overview of actually what's happened, what it is, and how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a project that is funded by the state and federal government, and it's one that they're rolling out across the state, and one where we're working with Gunnedah Shire. We've been partnered up with Gunnedah Shire, and they're proposing that these things work in partnership with various councils. Similar sorts of things. Drought doesn't really pay too much heed to municipal boundaries. The project, we engaged a firm to assist us with the project. There's been significant consultation around what drought resilience means. And one of the things that we've really focused on with the project is about understanding the impact that drought has on communities and individuals in communities, and trying to create an environment where the drought can occur. There can be impacts on the rural sector where often it is most significantly felt, but some of those things impact on people in town. So they're not buying their new tractor this year, or they're not able to buy things that they normally would buy. So therefore the suppliers find it difficult, etc., etc. And there may be some other businesses that they just shrink a little bit, and as a result, their business may fold. So, so we're looking at a range of things around, and it's really just working with community groups and so forth to come up with ways of, as examples of, small business, trying to find ways of, rather than young people heading off to Tamworth or down to Sydney to get a job, how do we work with them to create meaningful employment within Quirindi, within Werris Creek, wherever. We're obviously very focused upon the impact that it has on people's mental health, drought. So there's some initiatives that we've got in the program around trying to assist, help people help themselves with mental health. And there's a whole range of those sorts of things. The project in itself is called Keeping the Village Green. And, some of the things that we've talked about is using, you drive around in drought and it's dusty and it's dirty and all that sort of stuff. Wouldn't it be great just to have a nice little green area to sit under a few trees and go, yeah, we'll get back to that at some point. And which is, so it's all of those sorts of things. So the process we went through, we obviously did our project, we sent it off to the CSIRO, the commentary. We've now pulled together a project action plan that's now gone off to the state government. They'll give us a approval for that, and they'll give us, I think it's in the order of $200,000 to deliver the project in conjunction with Gunnedah Shire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frost. If there's no one else wishing to speak for or against the motion, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 6.7, authorise the signing of the draft financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2024. The recommendation reads that Council 1 authorise the Mayor and one councillor, the General Manager and responsible accounting officer to sign the statements by councillors and management as required for the draft financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2004 as tabled. 2, note that the draft Liverpool Plains Shire Council financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2024 will be referred to Council's Auditor, the New South Wales Audit Office, in accordance with section 413 (1) of the Local Government Act 1993. I would like to nominate the Deputy Mayor Lawson as the councillor to sign the statements. Deputy Mayor, do you accept?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to move this report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. I don't wish to speak to the motion. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Simkin?
Mr Mayor, as we haven't been provided the statements, I'm not prepared to make comment on it, so I'll be abstaining from the vote. I'd like to note it in minutes, please.
Councillor Lawson.
My comment was that I believe there's a stack of statements there for us. And I'd just like to note that these are the draft financial statements at this stage.
Was it?
I can speak to the, yeah.
I'll, before anyone makes any decisions, I'll just get Mr Frost to comment on the process. Thank you.
This is one of the interesting vagaries of the Local Government Act, where we need to have council endorse the draft documents so we can then send them to the auditor. And traditionally, councils don't provide these to councils presenting draft. And when we come back, once the auditor has reviewed them and given them the tick, well, then they are the formal final documents. I can certainly talk to, where we ended up last year, if that's of assistance to councillors. So I've got some notes here. So the bottom line was that showed a minor improvement compared to budget, around a $3 million deficit after we removed grant funds for capital projects, capital grants. There was a reduction in user fees and charges of around $1 million. $1.5 million of that related to a reduction in internal charges, revenue that we would receive from internal charges for material costs for roads that we were constructing. That is sort of offset, for the want of a better term, by a reduction in material costs for roads, so that sort of squares itself out. So that was the $1.2 million reduction, but there was a $290,000 increase related to water charges, where council needs to pay the water part of the organisation. But this is due to drier weather and needing to keep sports grounds and those things irrigated. And we received an additional ahead of budget $193,000 for works on state roads, where council does work on behalf of the state government. Another area of change was in relation to grants, around a $3.2 million less. Part of the issue is traditionally the government provides what's called the federal assistance grant, which is sort of a general operating grant that's not tied to anything to councils. Typically they provide 100% of that in the financial year before it's supposed to apply. And we budget for that every year. This year they provided us with this year under review, 85%, and that's in the order of $500,000 deficit. Some of the grant funding that we're expecting for roads was lower than we expected, but that's obviously offset by a reduction in expenditure in materials. There was a significant drop-off in capital grants, and that's simply related to projects moving slower than schedule, and the industrial precinct down Werris Creek is probably one of the most significant ones of those. On the good news side, we're able to generate an additional $1.7 million in interest earned on our investments, which is in the order of an additional 300% in terms of what we budgeted for. One of the big challenges that we face as a council is depreciation, and we took another $700,000 hit in depreciation. And our depreciation, I think, is more than the rate revenue that we generate, and it reflects, or nearly is more than our rate revenue. So it reflects just the significant number of roads and assets that we hold as a small council. We are looking at doing a project this year around reviewing how we calculate depreciation, because we have observed that there are other councils with similar sorts of road networks and assets booking less depreciation. So that is something that we're looking to do. We're also looking at reviewing our some of the assets that we have that we don't actually use. So buildings that we're not using and those sorts of things, to either have those demolished or to sell them if that's the most appropriate way going forward. The process that occurs with these, these reflect history and they reflect the best efforts of our CFO, Chris Powell, and his team to represent the council's finances for last year, and as I said, they reflect history. Once we provide those to the auditor, they then come back to council. That's when we can certainly go through them with a fine-tooth comb, if that's what council laws want. And we also put them on public exhibition and receive any comments that people might have. I think one of the things, and I've said it once and I'll say it again, they reflect history, and we can't change it. The auditor can, because they say, well, we haven't done this right, but we don't believe there is any material misstatements. We believe that these are accurate. But where councillors obviously do have an opportunity to influence things, I think it's next meeting we have the quarterly budget review statement, which if there are any changes to our what we're proposing in the budget, that's when decisions are made, and we certainly will fully brief councillors on that before then. We're obviously early next year we'll start the budget process, and that is where the rubber really hits the road in terms of some of the things that you may wish to do. As part of your induction, if you've read the we're going to spend a full day on finances. One will be from a person from LG New South Wales who will provide sort of the theory and the background and all the technical stuff. And then there'll be a session by myself and Chris, I believe, where we'll go through, some of these things in more detail, where we actually are, etc., etc. One of the things that I have as an officer, when it comes to our finances, I love it when councillors trust you and they don't ask you any questions, but I actually prefer you to ask questions, because then, because it's your responsibility, you're custodians of our finances, and you need to be comfortable with what you're doing. So, as we go forward, really encourage you to ask questions.
Has that helped, Councillor Silver?
Oh, no, it was very thorough. Thank you, Mr. Frost. I obviously, being a new councillor, probably would have expected or would have hoped to have seen beforehand, notwithstanding common practice within council. I do have one quick note on and I know that we're going to go through a council induction on this with regard to depreciation, but I presume council uses a linear method, and has council investigated a condition-based depreciation model at all? Thank you.
To the general manager?
Councillors, this is Chris Powell, he's our CFO.
Councillor Simpkin, so our depreciation is linearly based, but we do use age as a proxy for condition as a proxy for age. So we don't have construction dates for everything within our network, so there's got to be a level of assumptions that are made, particularly in our own network. So it is condition as a proxy for age. It is a linear depreciation. We do not use diminishing value. Our statements for many years have used linear depreciation. That's the standard that council has adopted for a long time. And looking at increasing rate depreciation where it's pretty flat early and drops off with condition, you've got to demonstrate dramatic increases in consumption into the future, which, given our growth rate, is difficult to confirm that's how it would work. So, whilst, as you would appreciate, as condition gets worse, they tend to get worse faster. That's not how the financial statements have to reflect it, unfortunately. It's a dichotomy between accounting standards and how you look at it from an engineering point of view.
Right, Councillor Simpkin? Yeah, who's it going? What do you vote on this?
Yeah. You voted Councillor Simpkin.
So, no one else wishing to speak for or against the motion? So, all in favour? Do I have to read that right? Against? Carried. Well, wait for it. Oh, statement. Just continue to the statement of investments. Councillor Arnold. Anyway, 6.8, statement of investments, September 2024. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the statement of investments as of 30th of September 2024 is appended at Annexure A. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cohen, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kane. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, please. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to continue to congratulate staff on maintaining an average interest return above the RBA benchmark. I think it's something that they've continued to do over a period of time, and it is commendable on the effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cohen. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Thank you. Against? Carried. We might just give to councillors just 5 seconds, it's fairly important, 6.9. Thank you.
I'm just trying to think.
You want to ask your questions again? Thank you very much. We'll continue, please. So 6.9, Infrastructure and Environmental Services Directorate Report, August, September 2024. The recommendation of Council 1, receive and note the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Directorate Report for the months of August and September 2024. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Cohen, do I have a seconder? Councillor Robinson, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, do you want me to repeat the queries I had before Mr. Frost has made notes that we go forward with them? Thank you.
Councillor Cohen's questions to the directors, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I think I've captured them, but if just let me know if we haven't. So the date, when we're talking about background funding for the Rose Creek Industrial Precinct project, there isn't a firm date that's identified within the documentation from the federal government. However, they indicate towards the end of November is when they expect to finalise submissions. There is currently another round that's open for submissions that closes at the end of January. But yeah, I expect assessment for the last tranche by end of November. Regarding one agency and grazing leases, etc., they are undertaking advertising of it. We have long-standing lease documentation for the grazing, so we're not utilising them to come up with the lease documentation for that. They're just doing that advertising for it. That was the main question, I think. Yeah.
Right, councillor Garland.
Just one, if I could. Just in relation again to those agricultural agreements, are they being renewed, or are they, are we at the point of negotiating the lease amount, or are they set already and we're just roll over where the previous agreement had a provision to extend or an option to continue?
Through the general manager.
I'm not completely across the full detail of it, so I am aware we've got a lease application on Fairbank Road at New Greenland that we're working through. There's a couple of parcels that council owns that we have grazing leases on already, so I think it's a case that there might be some renewals applications where we've actually been approached. So the Coonamble Road one, we've not drawn out. Someone has approached us and we've got, well, we can see some logic in that, so that we'll go through the process and potentially advertise it and those lines as well.
Right, councillor Garland.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson.
Just in regards to those potential leases that might be being renewed or new ones in the near future, we're still awaiting property listing of all the properties that council owns and what they are used for. I'm just a bit concerned about the potential that we're entering into a lease on a property that this council might decide we no longer have a use for it and it would be more prudent to sell it. Is there a timeline for entering into those leases, and could we please identify any properties that may be subject to that, so that we're not saying signing a lease for the next 12 months on a property that this council might decide is a good idea to divest ourselves of. Thank you.
General manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, most of these grazing leases are on road reserves or crown reserves that we are able to sell. So I don't believe there are any leases on premises that may be available for sale for council. As I understand, we're working towards providing council with information on potential properties by February next year.
Councillor Lawson. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on these grazing leases. Some of the fencing is absolutely unstockworthy. What are the insurance risks and everything? Do they have to fix the fences before they can stop, or what's the go?
For the general manager.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. It would depend on the property. So for road reserves and the like, they have to, one, there always has to be someone there. They can't just graze the road reserve and walk away. There has to be someone there monitoring it. They do have to ensure the fencing is up to standard. So it is something we need to assess, and if there is issues with the fencing, we will negotiate with the potential lessee to say, well, you know, there's issues with the fencing, we're not going to pay to fix it because it's suitable for our purposes. If you want a lease, we can negotiate that, but you might have to update the fencing to make it suitable. It's something we do consider.
Is a couple of hot wires significant to keep the stock in? Or does it have to be a hard barrier fence?
The general manager. Just get through me, James, please.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor.
Yes. We look at it on a case-by-case basis. So for road reserves, generally a temporary hot wire is considered sufficient, but again, they have to be there monitoring the stock. So it is a bit of a case-by-case basis, but if it was a parcel of land where they're going to raise it more permanently, we would expect a standard style stock fence to be installed there as part of that.
Right, councillor Robinson. Councillor Kane.
I think it's disregarding councillor Cummins' question regarding the application for $5 million funding for the Burr Street precinct. I would just like to ask, as a new councillor and the particular project of Burr Street Industrial Precinct as it's now signpost and multiple, I think, confusion to myself and possibly other councillors, would it be possible to ask management that this precinct development be put on the workshop paper to bring us, the new other councillors, up to speed so we can sort of understand what we're looking at? I was in the chamber as a visitor when yourself, Mr Mayor, asked the question, and there seemed to be some confusion even then, so a few months ago. So I'm just wondering if we could possibly be given some information, possibly at the workshop on the 25th, just regarding this project, because I believe there is funds in our budget already for this, and it's just a little bit confusing to understand what's happening for briefing, if that's all possible. Thank you.
The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Councillor Kane, yes, so on the agenda for the 25th will be two related matters. So one is a briefing on the Werris Creek Industrial Precinct as to both the funding that Mr Skelly's spoken about, but also other initiatives that we're working with on the state government in relation to that precinct. And then related to that is also a presentation by Whitehaven Mine on their rehabilitation plans and their proposed closure, because it is related. So hopefully that will provide councillors with some information.
Happy, Councillor Kane?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
So if there's no other, is there anyone else who want to speak for or against? Councillor Simkin? Oh, hang on.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know within the body of the report, you've got a comment about the disabled access to the council administration building. Has there been a broader disability access review of other council building assets completed, our halls, etc.? And if there has, is there any indicative budget required to bring them up to code?
For the General Manager?
There hasn't been a full extent done across all facilities, so we do not have budget identified or developed at this stage to understand what costs may be to improve accessibility across all council's facilities.
You have a Councillor Simkin?
Is that consistent with what council's committed to with its disability inclusion plan?
For the GM?
So that plan doesn't sit within my directive, but it, as I understand, it doesn't identify specific work so much as guiding principles of how we'll deal with facilities. So there's some, if I remember correctly, there are some works related there, but it's not, it hasn't considered the assessment of the entire fleet of council assets. It's just looked at guiding principles for inclusivity when we do works on particular projects.
So would it be fair to say that the next time the asset management plans are reviewed, that the disability inclusion plan or the strategies involved in that will be factored into that?
The GM?
Review of the asset management plans is not considering what may or may not be required to improve the accessibility for everybody at this stage.
Right, Councillor Simkin. Thank you. Is there anyone else who's got any questions for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried. Seven delegates' reports. There's nil. Eight, notice of motions, questions were noticed, nil. Non-confidential matters, the recommendation, the council considers the confidential report or reports listed below in the meeting closed to the public in accordance with section 10A brackets 2 of the Local Government Act 1993. 9.1 Willow Tree landfill contract variation. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A brackets 2 / brackets C of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest as it deals with information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Robinson. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Mr Mayor, could I just,
Sorry. Councillor Cohen, sorry.
it's just that if we're moving into confidential and matters to be discussed, I have a prior appointment which I need to leave the room for and won't be back. My understanding is that I'm not present at the time that vote takes place. I will be treated as having voted against the confidential matters. So if I should vacate myself now rather than participate in those matters, that's all. I don't wish to vote against the motion, but I won't be, I probably will not be here. I have to apologise and leave the meeting.
Can we take it on that?
Through you, Mr Mayor, so just to be clear, councillor, so if a councillor wishes to abstain, then that is considered to be a vote against the matter. If a councillor is not present, it's simply noted that the councillor is not present during that. So the vote would be based on the number of councillors who are present. So if there were 6 councillors present, it would be 6-0 or 3-3 or whatever. I won't do 3-3 because I have to have a decision, but yeah.
Can the councillor vote before he goes? He can't. No. So, we are,
The report on confidential matters, 9.1, Willow Tree landfill contract variation. The recommendation that Council 1 reallocate the budget of $1,064,000 from the Crindle landfill rehabilitation to the Willow Tree landfill construction for a total budget of $3,685,773. The resolution was carried. Meeting closed at 4:38.